Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's webinar. We have a very interesting topic called, which we're going to learn from Sharon. We are very privileged to have Sharon Collins. I'll talk to you about Sharon in a moment. But my name is Roger Galway. I'm the branch manager and the researcher in Melbourne. And from the Property Club, and what we are going to be talking about today is going to give you information. Now, as you know, we are real investors giving out real information to real people like you guys. So from a club's perspective, what we would like to do is share this relatively new sort of way of investing, and this is something which we have looked at very carefully, and now we've partnered with Oriana Group, and we are able to present this to all of you. So we've got a number of people who are registered for this webinar tonight. Now, I would like to introduce Sharon Collins, who's the Sales and Marketing Director from Oriana Property Select. She is a wealth of knowledge. She has been in the industry for 25 years. She has she has this 25 years of experience working with big corporate companies such as Mirvac. And now she's the head of launching the NDIS bills for Oriana Group, and she has, as I said, she has a lot of knowledge, and she's going to be presenting to us about NDIS, and hopefully we will all learn something from tonight. Now, again, if you can please make sure there is on your panel on the right-hand side, there is a questions box. Can you please, if you have any questions, please feel free to enter those questions in there, and we will try and get to it, and we will answer some questions at the end of the session. But in the meantime, hopefully Sharon will be able to answer a lot of your questions. I know this is a very topical topic, and very important for us to understand where we are coming from. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Sharon. And Sharon, the floor is yours. Please take over. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Roger. Very kind introduction. Thank you very much. Hi, as Roger just introduced me, my name's Sharon, and I would like to go through the NDIS build. This is a very topical subject out there. It's getting very hot, and there's a lot of people wanting to know more about it. There is NDIS has been quite strong in Queensland, South Australia, New South Wales, and just recently Perth and Melbourne have now started the program. So we only started NDIS late last year. We were the last two states to join the NDIS program. So it's now spreading. A lot of investors are hearing very exciting returns, and so it's something that we've been researching, our company, for over a year now. I'll talk a little bit about who we are as a company. Oriana Property Select is based here in Melbourne on St Kilda Road. We've been around for over 20 years now. We've basically been very much in the space of medium density, normal residential house and land, custom builds. We build on other people's land as well. We have, I'll just highlight a few things on the page at the moment. We have also a commercial part to the business where we build, childcare centres, and this is just some of them on the page at the moment. Petrol stations. So we are a company that's very diverse, and we are a developer as well. So we have our own land. And so we're a very big company that owns a lot of companies underneath them to be able to produce all these different types of builds. We probably do roughly about 2,000, including our medium density homes a year in Melbourne. We only build in Melbourne at this stage. We know our Melbourne investors very well, and we know our Melbourne developers and the growth corridors in Melbourne very well. So we do a lot of research when it comes to our packages, because we mainly sell to our investors. And those investors can be anywhere in Australia. We have a lot of Sydney investors, Queensland investors. They come from everywhere. So NDIS really started to sound like something we needed to investigate further about a year ago. We investigated it more along the lines with our partners that we knew that were already selling it in Queensland. Queensland is certainly the most advanced with NDIS. They have the most houses on the ground. They certainly have, really done big numbers with NDIS in Queensland. So we basically researched people that purchased it, and we researched people that were selling it, and we wanted to know all the ins and outs, the good and the bad, because there's nothing perfect out there, as we know. So NDIS comes with very high returns. It attracts very high returns. It's a national disability insurance scheme that's been set up by the government. It started in 2016, and it was there to basically give support to the disabled community. The disabled community didn't have any support, and there's a lot of disabled people that are in types of homes and things they really are not set up for. So this was to also help give them independence, to also assist them in getting jobs and getting them off Centrelink, taking pressure off the Medicare system, which has all started to work for the government. So they're continuing very strongly down this path of NDIS. When they first started, they spoke about committing for only 20 years. Now they're talking about always committing to NDIS because it's working very well for them. So if you don't know a lot about NDIS, can I recommend that you go to the ndis.gov website, which is on the screen now. This has a lot of information. Maybe you don't need to obviously read every little piece of it, but there's a lot of information. There's a lot of stats on here showing people how many people are waiting for NDIS homes. There's a lot of information on here about the program, how it's set up, what is involved. So I would certainly suggest this would be the best space to give you a lot of information about NDIS in general. It won't give you any investment type of information because it's not about that. The NDIS would rather pay companies like us to manage it. They don't want to manage it. They're just there to basically run the program.
Sharon, can I jump in for a moment, Sharon, if you don't mind? I just want to, if you don't mind, I just need to jump in for a moment. I just want to let you know we've had a couple of inquiries. I forgot to let you know that this session is being recorded. So all of you will receive a copy of this recording. So I just want to let you know so you don't have to be too concerned about writing down notes from here. You can please take down notes and like that, no problems. But just to let you know that the session is being recorded and you will receive a copy of that. Thank you, Sharon.
Very good. Thank you. So yes, so going back to our website now, we do have a bit of information on there about NDIS, but as I said, that ndis.gov website would give you a lot more detail. So we basically could see that there were people out there offering up to 15% return, which is unheard of. As we know, the average house and land here in Melbourne is probably getting around about 3% return, and then once you take off your management fees, you'll be maybe netting just over 2%. And then you have to factor in the vacancy rates, and you have to factor in maintenance and things that might go wrong with the house. So really, house and land hasn't been good returns for some time. It's when people buy house and land mainly because they're hoping for good capital growth, and that's usually why they buy house and land. And the capital growth is usually there because we all know land is the thing that appreciates, the build doesn't. So it is something that's what investors usually buy. So with this, when we looked at and we started to investigate these high returns, they were gross and they were also coming with high management fees because NDIS have their own management fees. So they were anywhere between 10 and 25% management fees. They're always going to be higher than a normal property manager because they do a lot more work when it comes to managing the house. There's carers involved and all sorts of things. So basically, when you factor in the management fees, the vacancy rates, and also, whether they had 2 tenants or 1 tenant, depending on the house size that they were quoted, this high return for might have been for 3 tenants to be in the house, and they might have only got 1 tenant. So when we averaged it all out and looked at all these things, they were averaging about 6% net, which we thought was fantastic. Even 6% is double what you get normally for a normal house and land. So we certainly didn't see any issues there. However, we wanted to make our offer even better. So what we decided to offer is basically 7 to 8% return. And I say 7 to 8% return because the 8% return is capped at 600,000. So we have packages around 600,000, and they're obviously going to get the 8% return. And then if they buy a package that's 650, then they might get 7-point-something% return. They'll still earn their 48,000 per annum because basically that's what the 8% return equals out to on a $600,000 package. So it is guaranteed for 7 years, and there's no management or no maintenance fees. Now, the 7 to 8% is net, it's not gross. So it is an amazing offer. It is something where we are lucky that we are the provider and we are the builder. This means that we have a good situation because we have a situation where we have got many disabled clients waiting to go into our homes. It's very undersupplied in Melbourne. So because it started only in Melbourne late last year, it's not like Queensland where they've probably got, in certain pockets of Queensland, there's probably a lot of supply there, whereas in Melbourne it's still very undersupplied. So this is a very compelling offer for anyone. Now, in the 7 years, if you decide you have to sell for some reason, because we don't see anyone wanting to basically stop their return because we don't know where else they're going to get this type of return. But let's say they came under financial difficulty, then we have what's called a buyback clause in our agreement, and we ask for first right to buy back. Now, obviously, if they don't want to sell to us for some reason, then obviously we can't make them. So they would just go to a normal real estate agent and go and sell through them. The beauty of the buyback clause, it's a backup for somebody that's under financial stress that might have to sell. And the good thing about it is that we're going to give them a fair market rate. We would get a third-party valuation, and they would not be charged any commission. We're not an estate agent to charge commission or any marketing fees that they would have with a normal real estate agent. So we see this as a plus as well because it is that extra backup if you were under financial stress. I know if I was in that position, I would want a quick sale and a fair sale. And this is what I would get. Now, a lot of people say, well, how can you do no maintenance fees? We are the provider and we work directly with NDIS. So the NDIS is the government and we are the provider. So we look after the tenant. We are the one that put the tenants in there. We'll have the tenants all ready to go once the house is handed over. The tenants have to be matched to the home. So what I mean by that is we build what's called the robust model. There's 5 different models when it comes to NDIS homes. It starts from the low disability end called the robust model, and it goes right up to the high disability end called the high physical support. So the number of different houses will be more expensive because they have more items that they have to include in the house. Things like in the high physical support model, you have to have hoists from the roof. It's more like a hospital. So it's a very expensive build. So we're not building those at this stage. NDIS has asked us to build those for them, but we need to make sure they're going to be saleable because from our side of things, if you were to purchase a high physical support model, just the house alone is around 700,000 because of all the all the extra upgrades that need to be put into this house. Now, the model that we build, the robust model, which is more down the lower disability end, doesn't need as many upgrades. It still needs a lot of upgrades, but not to the extent of the high physical support. So what type of disabled people would be living in our robust models would be along the lines of somebody with an autoimmune disease, maybe somebody that has a missing limb, sometimes wheelchair. If someone's in a wheelchair, they might not be in a wheelchair 100% of the time, but they might need a wheelchair to assist them. So our houses all have to be wheelchair compliant for this. So they're the type of disabilities that would be living in our homes. This robust model is the best model for the largest pool of tenants as well. It covers a lot more tenants than the high physical support. So you certainly can buy high physical support out there. There's plenty of people selling those models. It will be a lot more expensive, but the good thing is you get a higher return from NDIS. So they might be able to give you a return of 12% or 13% or even 15% I've seen, because one, the model is a lot more expensive, and two, the actual disabled client will need more subsidies from the government to be able to live in that home. So that's why they can offer you a higher return. Now, that'll still be gross, and that'll still be, that return will still mean that there'll be management fees that'll need to come out of that. So it's not the same as what we're offering. We're offering a net fee, and we're offering no management fees. So you want to get that mixed up. And it is important when you do your due diligence and you start talking to different people out there that might be offering high returns, and ask them the questions. Do they have management fees? Ask them all these questions so that you know, one of the things that I'm doing tonight is giving you a lot of information, so at least you're well informed. And if you've seen something in advertising in Queensland offering you 15%, you can ask the questions. Doesn't mean you're not going to still earn a good return. You just need to be well and truly informed about all the costs that go with it. So if I move on, NDIS have a very strict criteria in a lot of areas. One, the build is very strict. There's a lot of criteria that any builder has to follow all their regulations. The homes are actually over-engineered, but that's obviously comes down to all the regulations we have to follow. And then the next is the locations. They have to be approved by the NDIS as well. So they have to have a strong demand for the NDIS disabled clientele. So that's something that we work through with the NDIS. Now that's growing all the time. NDIS disabled clients are literally signing up every day. They're signing up through a number of areas. There's a lot of homes in Melbourne that are not set up properly for disabled clients, and the government actually has a big picture, and the big picture is to eventually move a lot of these disabled clients out of these aged care homes that shouldn't be in there into these type of homes. So there's certainly big pictures for these homes down the track. So you can see on the screen at the moment, these are some of the this is some of the criteria that the NDIS need for the locations to be approved. The good thing about that, these are all things that a normal investor would want for a good investment anyway. So things like amenities, like having public transport close, medical services, shops, those sort of things are all important to a normal investor. So it is most of the NDIS homes are what we call in very good growth corridors in Melbourne. Most of the growth corridors in Melbourne have been selling to your normal house and land and normal first home buyers. Obviously, some of them will have scattered in the estates some NDIS homes as well. So some of the areas that we've been already selling our homes in on the screen, as you can see, they are all different when it comes to price points. So you do need to remember that. We have many different types of buyers, and some of our investors, they get very fixed on certain areas. Some of them are very particular. They want, the southeast, for instance, and if you want the southeast, it's going to come with a higher price tag. So it's very important to understand that land is part of the price, and the house is the rest of it. So if someone is thinking purely as an investor and they want to max their return, then they would be looking in areas where it's closer to 600,000 for the package. So I'll move on. I touched on a little bit about our company at the start. I probably should just also mention we have just purchased 2 big new sites in South Yarra, which is very exciting for us. These are not NDIS sites, but certainly very exciting for our company. And I suppose that this is also to assist you into understanding who we are as a company. As I said to you before, we do many types of builds. We don't just rely on NDIS. NDIS is just another part of our business. It's certainly growing rapidly, and that's just because of the returns it can offer our investors. You might have all watched the budget announcements just recently, although you might have all thought it was pretty boring, but we were very excited about it because the NDIS was very much highlighted in the latest budget. I won't bore you with the tape on our website, but by all means you can go and listen to that. But basically what they announced was another $13.2 billion to go towards NDIS. And also what I found, well, what I took away from the announcement was that they said that they would always fund NDIS. So that's how confident they are with the NDIS program. So it was very good to hear. Some people said it was too much about the NDIS and it wasn't enough about other things. But from our point of view, it certainly showed that the confidence was there with the NDIS. So that's something you can certainly go onto our website and have a look at. I might move into the floor plan and just give you a bit of a rundown on the costs now, and then we'll look and see who's got questions. So I'm just going to go into a typical floor plan. Just move this down. You can see here, this one we're looking at here, which is in Wyndham Vale. The price is $686. Now, if you break down the house and the land price is always going to be the same as if you walked into the land office. So the land price doesn't change. It's the house price. The house price is going to be based on a number of things. One, it's got turnkey inclusions. Now, what does this mean? Turnkey inclusions mean that all the site costs are in there. You've got the driveway, you've got the fencing, you've got the landscape into the front and the back. You've also got blinds, you've got clotheslines, you've got a letterbox. It's a full turnkey ready for the tenant to move into. So all of that is included in the price. There's not going to be surprises later. The other thing that's included in the build price is the NDIS regulations or the NDIS upgrades that we have to provide in the home. So for instance, these homes, like I mentioned before, they are all over engineered. They have to be. They're a much stronger quality. It's a much higher quality than a normal residential house and land. And I'm not knocking our normal residential house and land because we build them too, but we have to have a higher quality for these homes because of the NDIS requirements. So things like, non-slip flooring, wider door frames, wider hallways to suit wheelchair access, 2.7 metre ceilings, skylights. We have to have 3 skylights in these homes. We have to have things like extra air conditioning systems. There's a lot of things, even thicker plaster, even the site costs a builder 3 times as much than a normal house and land site cost. Now, the reason being is we can't have steps up to the, we can't have a step up to the house or at the back. We can't have driveways on a slope because people in wheelchairs, we don't want them, you know, rolling down the driveway. So it has to be totally flat. So that usually means that the builder has to do much more of a site scrape, and it can sometimes mean that they have to do retaining walls in the gardens as well. So it is a lot of cost. A lot of builders do not even want to build NDIS homes. It's too much of a headache. It's too much. So you have to be an experienced builder with a lot of different types of builds that you are well and truly across. Now, all of our NDIS homes come with 3 bathrooms. So they're 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. And that's another extra because most 3 bedrooms will only have 2 bathrooms. So if you look at this plan here, you'll see the front bedroom is where the carer stays. There's always a carer in any NDIS home. Depending on the disabled participants that are in the home, they actually call them participants, not tenants. If the participant needs a carer there 24/7, then they have rosters with the carers. If the participant is, you know, not very, you know, they're actually quite not disabled enough to need somebody there 24/7, they would probably have a carer there maybe 9 to 5, maybe only a few hours a day, depending on what was needed with the participants. So that is why it's important for us as a provider to make sure we match the participant in the homes as well. So there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scene with an NDIS home. A lot of people think it's very easy, but it's not. Even down to the participants, they have to be matched to go into the home. We can't have a participant that needs 24/7 care with somebody that might not. It's very much needs to be matched with the whole program. So you will see the house price is obviously going to be more expensive than a normal residential home because it is an NDIS home. So there's no good trying to compare it with something on realestate.com. For instance, it's going to be a lot more expensive. Realestate.com will have normal residential homes, not NDIS homes, and those will have the normal returns of 2 or 3%, and they will be also very much, usually they don't even put the site costs in there because it's all about making the house on realestate.com or the package on there cheap enough so that they get the inquiry. So you do have to be mindful of the differences. And I always say to people, you know, you just have to ask, and people would have to tell you the truth. So you have to say, you know, does this include site costs? Does this include my landscaping to the front and back, fencing 3 sides, all that? And they have to tell you the truth. So these are things that I don't necessarily advertise a full turnkey package on realestate.com. So the only way to compare it is to compare it with another NDIS home that would be of the same model. That's the only way you can compare it. So one of the other things is to take just a little bit of time on is just the estimated title here. What that means is we build in all the growth corridor estates in Melbourne, so very popular estates for normal house and land and you know, medium density and all the different builds that they build in there. But they all have different stages and they all have different estimated titles. So if you're somebody that's very interested in buying one of these investments, then and you haven't gone to the bank to get your finance, then you would be better off to buy something that's not titled, so that you have plenty of time to get your finance sorted. If you're somebody that's already got a finance approval and your bank's only going to hold that approval for 3 months, as they do, then you might want to move quite quickly. So as long as you've got the deposits and you're ready to go, then you could buy titled land. So some of our stock that's titled, people can settle in 45 days, 60 days, depending on the land and the development. So that's something just to take into consideration if you're thinking about purchasing. And even if you're just thinking about purchasing a normal house and land, you know, always check, you know, when is the title due. So if the title is due like this one in October 21, obviously you've got a few months up your sleeve to get things organised. So we'll move on now. We'll move on to the costs. with house and land, this is very much very similar to a normal residential house and land build. So what I mean by that is you've got a land contract, a build contract, you have our 8% guaranteed document, and you'll have what's called the NDIS certification fees. That is $5,000. It's a once-off fee, and that is going directly to NDIS. Any NDIS home around Australia, they charge a certification fee. So that $5,000 you would probably give to your solicitor, your accountant, and you would obviously claim that on your investment because it's a claim for your investment. So what you need up front is the 10% deposit on the land, 5% deposit on the house, and the $5,000 NDIS certification fee. They're the costs that you need up front to move forward. Then when the land is titled, you will obviously have to settle on the land. That's when we can start to build. So usually a builder would then organise permits. This is even in a normal house and land as well. The process that I'm talking you through now is exactly the same for a normal house and land as well. So if some of you have already built normal house and land, then this will be all very familiar to you. So once the land is titled, as I said, we would then go and organise permits. That usually takes about 6 to 8 weeks. However, at the moment, because we are in this crazy boom time, it is taking longer. So the councils are all backlogged with permits, so it's taking around 10 weeks at the moment for permits. Once we get the permits, we can start building. It takes around 6 months to build. And I would say if you add the permit time and say 9 to 10 months all up, you should be covered in that time. Now, over that build time, like normal house and land, you'll have progress payments. So that's at the different stages of the house build. So you've got your base stage, you know, your frame stage, your lock up, and you know, there you go. I think it is 5 stages. So those progress payments will be over that time. Then when we complete, we do a handover. In that handover, there usually be some defects. There's no builder, I think, I would say no builder will have no defects. It's probably unheard of to have 100%, you know, perfect. So there'll usually be some minor defects, cosmetic defects to be fixed. That usually takes a couple of weeks. And then the tenant can move in and we start paying the 8% return. So the 8% return starts 8 weeks after handover. Then the only other thing that you will need, as a normal investor would, is to pay your rates and to pay for your building insurance. So normal rates out there, if you said around 3,000, that would cover per year your rates. And then of course you've got your building insurance as well. So I think we might take a break and just see if there's some questions that I might need to cover. Roger, can we maybe see if there's any questions there that I can go through?
Definitely, Sharon. That was a very, very good presentation. It's given me a lot of information actually, which has helped me understand this whole process better. And I hope that all of you have got some better understanding about this. Now, there's a couple of questions and some interesting questions which came up, Sharon. One of the things which was asked was the furniture in the house. Okay, is that something which who has to? Is that something which is provided by the owner, or is that something which the participants bring?
Yes, so this depends on the participants. So again, some of the participants that probably need more disabled help, there is furniture that we actually supply. So that's not for the owner of that's not for the investor. That's to do with what we supply to the tenant, and we would use that in different NDIS homes.
Okay. So things, and what about normal things like a lounge suite or a TV and fridge and that sort of items?
Yeah, so the tenants, the participants, like normal tenants, will have their own things. As I said, not all of them will. So that's where we do supply some furniture as well.
Okay, good, good. Okay, that's good. Now, another question which came up was, okay, can non-disabled participants live in an NDIS property?
No, they can't.
No? Okay, good. I
No,
thought as much, but I thought I'll ask you the question.
that's all right.
Another question is, what happens after 7 years? After you said that there's a guarantee for 7 years, what happens after that?
Yes, good question. So as we get close to the expiry, we will have our admin team contact all the owners, and they will offer them another term. So what I mean by that is, at the moment we can guarantee the 7 years, but 7 years is a long way away, so we don't know what the term will be, but we will offer you another good term. Now, it's in our best interest to keep your business. We don't want to lose any of these homes. Every NDIS home is a business to us. So we will have to, well, it'll be in our best interest to offer you another good return so you stay with us. Otherwise, you would say, oh, look, Sharon, this provider up the road, they're offering me more than you. So you never know, you might get a better term the next time around.
Okay, good, good, good. That's great. Another question, which I think is a very interesting question also. You spoke about the buyback properties. Okay, buying back the
Yes,
properties, say after 3 years or 5 years, if someone wants to sell it back. Okay, can you
yes.
please elaborate a little bit about on the buyback, on how that works, and are you currently selling any buyback properties?
No, any buyback, we would keep them because we know how any NDIS is certainly a very good investment. So we try and keep as many as we can. As I said, they're a business to us. We
Yeah.
make a profit on every NDIS home. We don't hide from that. If we weren't making a profit, well, we wouldn't be able to offer this great return to our clients. So it's important to understand that you know, this is why we ask for first right to buy back, because we will be trying to keep as many as we can. So if someone is in a situation where they have to sell, we are not saying you have to sell to us. You don't have to at all. There's no third party enforcing. It's just we ask for first right, and we would hope that you would want to sell it to us because we would give you a fair offer, and there's no commission on that.
Yeah. So, and that will be at market rate, I assume.
Yes, so we do a third-party valuation, as mentioned
Yeah.
before, and it would basically be, you know, what I would call a very quick and fair sale.
Okay, excellent, good. Thank you for that. Okay, a couple of other questions also. Hang on. Yeah. Okay. Another good question is, what about? So sorry, there's two questions here. Will the loan for the investment be considered a commercial loan or a residential loan from a bank's
This is a
perspective?
very, very good question because we've been doing this for some time now, and one of the things with the banks out there, we are in a boom market, so the banks are all being even more conservative than they normally are, and that's what happens in a boom market. So just so you know, in a boom market, the banks tell the valuers, okay, you need to be conservative at the moment because if things change, interest rates start to creep up, we need to make sure that these clients are going to be able to pay their loans because the banks don't want to have a whole lot of mortgagee sales. Okay, so they are very conservative at the moment. In apartments, they're about 20%. There's 20% under vals at the moment. So it's across the board. It's not as bad in house and land. House and land is always preferred by the banks as a better investment because the land is what appreciates, as we explained before. But certainly I would say to anyone that is you know, buying this type of investment, this is more for a sophisticated investor that would probably have some equity, maybe even have a few investments for themselves already, because it's not going to well, it can, you can get valuations stack up because we have already, but I would always be saying to people there may be a shortfall and they should be prepared for that. So if we look at the normal 3-bedroom house in the area, you're probably looking around about around that 300 mark for a normal 3-bedroom with turnkey. So if you've got a house that's more expensive, even though it's got a lot of upgrades, normally the bank will still give you a lower valuation. So you do need to be prepared and understand that. I would say most of our buyers are going through banks as a residential home, because if you try, you can't have it as a commercial, and the reason being is because it's not your business. You can only run it as a commercial loan if it's your business. Now, I understand some people say to me, but you're running it as a business because you've got tenants in there. But we've yet to see any banks take it on as a commercial loan. That might change down the track. Most of them all say it comes under residential only. And I think there's benefits for the residential loan anyway, because you pay extra fees on commercial loans. So to me, I would think, and I'm not an expert I'm not a bank expert, but I would think that the residential loan would be a better way to set it up. We have got plenty of investors that have purchased these homes at a 90% LVR. What that means is they only have 10% deposit. However, the way they're doing it is because they have other properties, they have good equity, maybe they own a few properties, and that is how they can do it. But if you only had 10% deposit and you didn't have any, buffer or any backup equity and things like that, this wouldn't be for you. I would say to you, buy a normal house and land, or do something different, because this is an investment that you need to understand that will probably have a shortfall, and we can't tell you exactly how much. Some of our clients haven't had any, some have had 20,000, some have had 30,000. So it is very very hard to read that because of all the different valuers that it's very hit and miss with all the different valuers out there. The other thing I can say about the banks, it is very important to present the actual property to the bank, to make sure you highlight that this 3-bedroom home is not a 3-bedroom 2-bathroom, it's a 3-bedroom 3-bathroom, and also it has a lot of upgrades, and you highlight these upgrades. Some of our clients, what they're doing now, they're actually taking this to the banks and using this to highlight, and reason being, even though they have all the upgrades in the building contract, and all the upgrades are pages and pages of upgrades, but at the same time, if the bank doesn't look at that, then they're missing a lot of the value to this property. And I've had valuers ring me and they've said, Sharon, we're trying to value this land. We just want to know if we can go and value it. And I'll say, yes, I'm just wondering, have you got the contract there? Oh, no, we don't have the contract. So these valuers are going out without the contract, not understanding that this house has got 3 bathrooms and a whole lot of upgrades. So if they go and value it to a normal house and land with 2 bathrooms and no upgrades, you can imagine that it's going to have a low valuation. So we're finding there's a lot of, I suppose, investors now that are getting very savvy with the banks, and they're understanding that if they make sure they present it right from the word go, they're getting a lot better valuations. So that is definitely something, to be educated on, because some banks will say, oh, we don't deal with NDIS, and that's just because, again, the banks, anything new to the banks, they just put it in the too hard basket. And because the NDIS start with the different builds, they basically don't look at it and say, oh, this is the robust model, this is the good model, it's not that expensive. They don't look at it like that. They look at it as in all the NDIS are in the same basket, whether it's a high physical support $700,000 home and our home here. So it's very important to either go through somebody that specialises in NDIS, and we have brokers that specialise in NDIS and they know how to present it properly to the banks. Or we certainly know that NAB, NAB do NDIS lens. They certainly have done many for our clients. Just for everyone's knowledge, when we started this in late last year, we've already sold over 160 odd homes. So, we've certainly got our heads around what's happening out there with the finance.
Excellent. Very good point. Very good point. A couple of other questions, Sharon. Sorry,
Yes.
just to come back on that point. So it's important to use the right broker, and it's important to make sure that you get the right finance. So that's for all of us
Yes.
to take into consideration. Okay. Another question which we have, which has come up, a few people have asked the question, is about the building insurance. Now, is the building insurance more for these properties, or they're compared to a normal house and land?
From my understanding, we've spoken to a few insurers because we've been doing our homework in this area as well. We've been given the advice that as long as you tell the insurer that your home is tenanted, that's all they need to know. So it really, for them, it doesn't make any difference whether it's NDIS or normal home. They just need to know that it's tenanted, because when it is tenanted, there's always going to be a bit of a higher insurance on it.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So it's just a normal. They just need to know that it's a normal tenant. They don't need to know it's
Yep.
it's NDIS properties or anything like that. But
yep. And with
okay.
insurance companies that we've spoken to, they've said the NDIS makes no difference, Sharon. It's what is important to them. They just need to know that it's tenanted.
Yeah, good. Okay, that's fine. That's good. That's a good question. Another question was with regards to the rent. Now, you mentioned something about the rent, that it's $48,000 per annum. Is that capped at $48,000?
Correct. So currently,
Okay.
for this model, as I said, NDIS are working with us on different models. Those different models, when they do come out, they might have higher returns. However, they are going to be more expensive because they're a different model, and they have more upgrades and different items in those homes.
Yep. Good. Okay. So following on from there, with regards to the expenses that are deducted from the rental income. So
Yes.
the 48,000 is net. That's the net amount which the investor will get. It doesn't matter. All the other expenses which are there are taken care of, and this is the net amount which they will get. Is that right?
That's right. So they won't have any maintenance. We have gardeners that go around to all our homes and keep all the gardens outside maintained. And our carers let us know if anything needs maintaining inside. The good thing is you've got a brand new home, so you get full depreciation, and you'll actually get extra depreciation on these homes because you've got a bunch of upgrades that you would claim on as well. And then, being that they're new homes, they've all got the standard structural warranties. We deal with HIA contracts. So you've got warranties on all the appliances. You've got warranties on the structural. So we don't see anything really going wrong with a brand new home. But if it does, you're not going to get any calls from your property manager saying this is broken down and I need to give you some quotes to get it fixed. We will organise that. Anything that needs to be fixed, we will do that.
Okay, so that comes back to me. So if there's any damage in the property, if there's any damage, who looks after that and who has to maintain that, Sharon?
That's us. So again, and that's in our agreement too, Roger. So in the agreement that they receive, once they receive the land contract and the build contract, the agreement basically has all that in there, and it's exactly the same as a normal property manager's agreement in that we would have to hand it back in fair wear and tear. So anything that needs to be fixed in that time would be fixed by us.
Okay, excellent. I think that covers a lot of the questions which we had, Sharon. I think it's been really good. I'm just trying to see if there's any other questions which needed to be answered. Sorry, there's heaps of questions over here, so I'm just going to go through this. Okay. Yeah, so part of the process is getting the NDIS approval. That's all your role. That is your role from the provider to make sure that these properties you will get the NDIS approval. There's no situation to say, oh, sorry, we didn't get the NDIS approval for these properties or anything.
Correct. That's all done before we release the packages for sale.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So this has been great. I think there's a lot of information here, and I thank you, Sharon, for all the information which you have provided and for answering all the questions and providing this information. For me, it is a big eye-opener, and it has helped me, and I hope that It's also helped a lot of our investors who have been here.
I
What I
hope
would
so.
suggest, yeah. So all our people who have attended, all our members who have attended, can you please, if you have any questions, please feel free to go back to your property mentor in the first instance. Please feel free to pass on the questions from them. Now Sharon is going to provide us with some packages which I will be sending out to you. So if you have any questions about, if you want any packages in particular, whether they are title land or non-title land, please contact your property mentor and come through them. They will contact me. I will get that information from Sharon and I will pass it on. As Sharon says, a lot of them are in the newer estates in the north. We've got in the north, we've got in the west and in the southeast. As she said, they are priced differently. So based on the price of the land, that's basically the cost of the packages. So feel free to come to us and ask us these questions, and we are more than happy to help you with this. So I hope you've got all the information required, and I look forward to hearing from you. But again, before we finish, I'd like to thank Sharon for taking this time, this hour, to provide us with all this information. And hopefully, Sharon, we will get some inquiries, and hopefully we'll be able to do some good business with you. And I think that the fact that this model is a really good one, I think it will be very beneficial for us to have in our portfolio. And in fact, I myself will be contacting the broker tomorrow to see if I can borrow that money to buy one of these myself.
Oh, well, good on you, Roger. I've done one
Okay.
too.
Yeah.
I bought one in Bacchus Marsh.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yes.
Okay.
All
Thanks
right.
everyone,
Thank you
and
thank you.
it's been a great evening. But thank you so much, and we look forward to touching base again with you. And again, good night,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank you. Good night. Bye.